In Victorian England, nearly 1,800 workhouses imprisoned over 90,000 people, stripping women of family, identity, and hope. The system promised misery worse than poverty itself, with mothers forced to surrender their children and to endure 16-hour days of silence and starvation. But among the ruins of this machinery, a few women dared to rebel, and they paid an unthinkable price. What drove them to fight back? The 1834 Poor Law Amendment Act reshaped the fate of England's poor. Under this new law, anyone seeking relief had to enter a workhouse and surrender every last possession at the door. Official records from the time list intake officers, methodically separating families, sending men to one ward, women to another, and children to a third. The law's architects insisted that life inside must be harsher than the worst existence outside. This principle, known as less eligibility, was debated fiercely in Parliament, with some members of Parliament warning that such cruelty would breed desperation rather than discipline. Still, the law passed, and a network of nearly 1,800 workhouses soon covered England and Wales. For women, the ordeal began as soon as they crossed the threshold. The admission books recorded not just names, but the stripping away of identity. Each woman was assigned a number, issued a coarse uniform, and told to forget her past. Mothers were forced to hand over their children, sometimes allowed only brief visits on Sundays. The rules were clear. Family bonds were to be broken, personal items confiscated, and any sign of individuality erased. By the 1860s, more than 90,000 people were confined in these institutions at any given moment. Death was a constant threat. Roughly 1 in 10 who entered would never leave alive. For the women trapped inside, the workhouse was not just a place of poverty, but a machinery of control designed to crush hope and enforce obedience. A daily regime of labor awaited, so punishing it was meant to break the spirit as much as the body. 16 hours. That was the length of a typical workhouse day. Women rose before dawn to the shrill call of the bell, their beds already stripped of blankets, as punishment for any minor infraction the day before. Labor filled every hour, scrubbing endless corridors, hauling laundry in steaming, airless rooms, and stitching uniforms that would soon be worn by the next wave of arrivals. The workhouse rulebooks dictated every movement, every silence, every meal. No talking was allowed between women, not even a whispered comfort to a neighbor. Supervisors and the matron patrolled the wards, eyes sharp for any sign of idleness or defiance. Food was measured with precision, but never enough. Breakfast might be a ladle of thin porridge, lunch a heel of bread, and watery soup. The official dietary lists posted on walls promised sustenance, but delivered only hunger. Bones ached from malnutrition and the strain of repetitive chores. Children separated from their mothers were forced into their own routines. Any child who cried for comfort risked a beating, the sound echoing through stone corridors as a warning to the rest. The uniforms, coarse and shapeless, served as a daily reminder of lost identity. Names were replaced by numbers. The silence, the sameness, the constant surveillance, these were not just rules, but tools of control. For many, the workhouse became a pressure cooker, stripping away hope and individuality, leaving only the question of how much more could be endured. Discipline logs from workhouses in the 1850s reveal a hidden war waged in silence. Women found ways to chip away at the rules, sometimes together, sometimes alone, always under the threat of punishment. Property damage began at the threshold. Admission records mention broken windows, snapped broom handles, even doors forced off their hinges by groups refusing to file quietly into the wards. The Guardians called it vandalism, and for the women, it was a message. Work refusals filled the punishment books. On laundry days, teams of women would slow their pace until the piles overflowed, or stitch uniforms so poorly they had to be redone. The matron's notes complain of willful idleness and sullen disobedience. In the kitchens, bread went missing, as officials suspected smuggling between wards, hidden in aprons, tucked beneath pails, passed with a nod or a glance. Letters smuggled to the outside world sometimes reached reformers or sympathetic clergy, sparking investigations that rarely led to change but always rattled the staff. Meal refusals were another tactic. When rations were cut, groups of women would push their bowls away in unison, risking solitary confinement. Work stoppages could last hours, even a day, until the threat of bread and water forced a return. On rare occasions, discipline logs record outright attacks, a thrown bucket or a slap aimed at a supervisor. These moments of open defiance were met with swift punishment. But word spread quickly from ward to ward, building a sense of shared resistance. In a system built on silence, these acts, large and small, became a language of rebellion. Escape from the workhouse demanded both nerve and cunning. Some women watched for the rare moment when a guard's attention slipped, during the morning crush into exercise yards, or as dusk settled over the high, crumbling walls. Scaling those barriers meant risking broken bones or a swift capture. Yet written accounts from the era describe women hoisting themselves over with the help of friends, their uniforms snagging on the jagged brick. Others plotted quieter exits. Porters, poorly paid and sometimes sympathetic, could be bribed for a whispered hint about patrol times or a key left carelessly on a hook. The laundry offered another route. Carts laden with soiled linens rolled out through back gates, and desperate women hid themselves among the sheets, holding their breath as the wheels bumped over cobblestones. Feigning illness became its own kind of strategy. The workhouse infirmary, with fewer locks and less surveillance, offered a window of opportunity. By the time a matron realized a patient had vanished, hours might have passed. Fires, sometimes accidental and sometimes not, threw the entire institution into chaos. In the confusion, records vanished, and so did inmates, their names scrubbed from the ledgers by smoke and ash. Punishment for these acts was swift and severe. Recaptured women faced days in solitary confinement. Cold, bare cells where silence pressed in from every side. Food rations, already meager, were cut to crusts and water. Poor law board circulars warned guardians to prosecute repeat escapers as vagrants, sending some women before magistrates in crowded courtrooms. For mothers, the cost ran even higher. Children left behind were often held as leverage, a threat that kept many from running at all. Escape was never just a dash for freedom. It was a battle with the entire machinery of discipline. And the consequences echoed far beyond the workhouse walls. In August 1845, at Andover Workhouse in Hampshire, news broke that inmates were so desperately hungry they gnawed marrow from the rotten bones they were forced to crush for fertilizer. Parliamentary investigators arrived to find evidence that went beyond starvation. One unnamed woman, her hands still stained with bone dust, described how the master preyed on female inmates, and her words were recorded in the Select Committee report, a rare moment when a pauper's voice reached the corridors of power. The master, exposed for both cruelty and sexual abuse, was dismissed. Yet the inquiry revealed more than a single villain. Testimony from women and men alike painted a picture of a system that punished hunger with silence and turned suffering into routine. Newspapers across England printed the scandal, fueling outrage. But when the dust settled, only minor reforms followed. For the women who spoke, the cost of truth was high, and the workhouse doors remained locked. On fragile, yellowed pages, Hannah Cullwick recorded what few dared to write. Her diaries from the 1860s offer a rare window into the private world of Victorian working women, a voice almost lost to history. In neat, determined script, Cullwick described hands raw from scrubbing, uniforms that erased her name, and the endless rhythm of labor. Yet she also wrote of quiet rebellion, a smuggled crust of bread, a whispered word of comfort, the satisfaction of work done for herself, not for the overseers. She wrote that she was but a slave, yet still herself. Most women left no record, but Cullwick's words survive, reminding us that even within the tightest grip of the workhouse, spirit and solidarity could flicker, hidden but unbroken. Today, historians piece together these fragments, recovering the stories that statistics cannot tell. Today, workhouse walls stand as hospitals or homes, but the erasure of women's resistance lingers in our public memory. As poverty and institutional control take new forms, remembering their defiance warns us. Dignity is never freely given. Who will notice or name the rebels among us now?